Let's go. Let's deploy a cluster on AWS. I'm just going to do it. Here we go. Let me go to AWS. I'm going to launch 7 instances right now. And they are going to be, I'm going to call it August 21, because that's today, my August 21 cluster. Somebody could watch the video. I'll just call it my cluster. I'm going to use Ubuntu because I like Ubuntu. I'm going to change it to ARM, even though the little thing says, are you sure? Because that's going to be faster. And pick the types. I mean, you know what you want to pay for. You know what you need for disk space. I'll just do T4G larges. I got 8 gigs of memory. That's plenty for what I'm going to do. Normally I'd create a key pair, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to use one that I already have. I have a training key pair already on my machine. I'm going to create a security group. This is important. I'm going to hit edit. This is the trick. I've got to open, I don't care what the name of the group is. I'll just leave it as that. That SSH on port 22, I absolutely have to have that. I'm going to add all the ports that I need. I need port, I got to make sure I don't miss any of these ports. I need port 9000 for sure. From anywhere. I need port, I have them all listed. Where do I have them? 9009. That's how they talk to each other. So the ClickHouse instances talk to each other on port 9009. I need, now these are all secure, so that's why they start with 9. 9181 is the port that the ClickHouse keeper instances talk to each other on. And then I need port 9234. Oh no, that's 9181 is how the ClickHouse servers talk to the ClickHouse keepers. 9234 is how the Zookeeper or the ClickHouse keepers talk to each other. So I don't need a lot of space. I'll just put 50 gig on each one. I'm going to delete this cluster right away anyway. I hope that worked. Make this big enough. If you're going to put a bunch of data on there, make sure you do it right. Like pick something good. So, all right. I'm going to launch it. Let's see what happens. Okay. Now what I did was, for the sake of just performance, not performance, for the sake of being fast, I created where's my editor right there. I took all the settings that I needed. I realize that's kind of small, but it'll be a little bit bigger when I get to the when I put this in the when I actually do this. This is my Zookeeper setup. So I'm going to put this file on all my 3 Zookeeper nodes. And then I'm going to put this config file. This is my cluster. I'm going to have a cluster called my cluster with 2 shards, and each one's going to have 2 replicas. And so I've got this all set up and ready to go, but I got to copy and paste it a bunch. So what I'm going to do is, and you got to use the private IP addresses to do this, but I got to SSH onto these. So the first 3 are going to be my Zookeeper nodes. And so what I did was I opened up 7 tabs here. Yes. Did I grab the public one? I did. So these 3 are going to be Zookeeper ones. And so I'm going to just SSH onto all 3 of these. I'll come back to that. And I'm going to show you something. And I have all this in the lab, in the resources that we share. Everything I'm doing, we're going to share with you. So you can just kind of follow along and watch it work. Hey, what did I do? Which one did I log into? Oops. Oh, now right out of the gate, I got confused. I'm not even sure if I'm on the right one now. I should have done that. I wanted to do that one first. Okay, I'm on that one. Okay, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to install ClickHouse Keeper on all 3 of these. And I'm just very quickly going to copy and paste it all. But notice what I'm going to update the repos. I'm going to grab the repo. I just copied and pasted this right off our website, right out of the docs. And then I did a couple of little extra things. I created a user called ClickHouse, or I added Ubuntu to the ClickHouse group because the ClickHouse install does everything with the ClickHouse user. And so what I'm doing right now is installing ClickHouse on these 3 different machines. Let me make sure I'm on a different machine. 48, 100, and what's this one? 152. So I'm installing ClickHouse Keeper on those 3 machines. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure ClickHouse Keeper on those 3 machines. And so where's my text editor? And so this is the private IP address of the 3 Zookeeper nodes. 1, 2, 3. That's how they're going to find each other. And the only thing I'm going to change is the server. Oh, that kind of got pushed over. Is the server ID. I'm going to make it 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just going to grab this whole thing and copy it. Now I got to wait for that to install. Let me go over here. Oh, that one's done. Just going to exit and log back in again. That's important because I don't know, Linux, I could have done that probably quicker. But then I'm going to go into Etsy ClickHouse Keeper and notice what I have. I have this file here called Keeper Config. Whatever's in there, the default, I don't want any of it. You know, it's just got some comments in it. It's got some logging set up. It's trying to help me do what I want to do. But I'm just going to delete the whole thing. And I'm going to insert my settings. So these are the 3 Zookeeper nodes. They can all find each other. This one's server ID is 1, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to go into the second one. Again, I'm going to log out and log back in. That's just so my settings kick in. And I'm going to go into Etsy ClickHouse Keeper, BI that file. And again, I'm going to delete everything in the file and then make this one number 2. So this one's going to be server ID 2. That's the server ID of the Zookeeper. Oops, I got to exit this one too. So the Zookeeper nodes just call each other 1, 2, and 3. It's kind of boring, but it's totally fine for what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to do this one more time. Keep the entire file, paste it, and change this one to be server ID number 3. And then I'm going to start these up. And man, I hope this works. So let's see what happens. I am going to just run it. I'm going to run it as the ClickHouse user. I got the command right here. So in no particular order, that's Zookeeper 3, Zookeeper 2, and Zookeeper 1. And I'm just going to hope they find each other. I'm going to show you a nice little trick. I'm going to SSH onto one of these machines. Do it right here in this tab, SSH dash. I am going to now ClickHouse Keeper is a C++ implementation of Zookeeper. Oh, that was private. I should have used a public one. And so what does that mean? That means it's fast, it's nice. I mean, it's just way nicer than Zookeeper itself, but we implemented it so you can do, like, you could say, "Are you okay?" And you can pipe it to the Zookeeper and it says, "I'm okay." And then you can there's like a monitor one. So all the little 4-letter commands for Zookeeper work for ClickHouse Keeper. And so you can see, it looks like everything's running, but let me go back here. I don't see any errors. And it looks like they're all talking to each other. Yep, this one sees all 3 IP addresses. Everyone's a voting member. Looks good. This might have been some warnings when it started up, but it appears to be working. And so I'm going to go on to the next step. I'm going to install ClickHouse Server on these bottom 4 nodes. And so I should probably make sure I get that right. Yep. So I got Zookeeper running. I have a very nice setup there. Let's go 1. I got 14 minutes. I got plenty of time. This is going to work. I just want to be able to create the tables at the end because that's kind of the payoff. So hopefully I have enough time to do that. I'm going to install the server, ClickHouse Server, on these 4 nodes. And so same deal. I'm going to copy and paste. Oops, I totally logged into the wrong machine. I wondered about that. I'm going to log into all 4 of the ClickHouse server nodes. And again, copy and pasting a command that I have ready to go. But again, I took this 90% of this I took out of the docs. This part I did myself. The add user Ubuntu to the ClickHouse. I didn't want to have to create a user called ClickHouse and do all that stuff. But I'm installing the ClickHouse server and the ClickHouse client on all 4 of these machines. So I'm going to do that. Now, about halfway through the install process, it's going to prompt me for a password for the default user. And normally I would type in a password, but I'm just going to hit enter so that I don't have to mess with a password. But like I said, normally you'd put a password on your ClickHouse instances. So what's the best way to install ClickHouse virtual machines or Kubernetes pod? I'll tell you exactly how to. That's a great question. Let me show you something. If you go to ClickHouse, Docker Compose examples, we have this lovely GitHub repo with all kinds of different setups. I'll share the link here in the chat. All these different Docker Compose files. And even if you're not using Docker, if you just want to do a 2 ClickHouse node, 2 shard, 1 replica, check it all out. Like we have all the config files here, like everything you need is going to be all right there. And it's super helpful to go through and kind of do it that way. So let me go back. Here's the password. I just want to get past the password prompt. No password, no password. We're being lazy. I know. No password for you. No password for you. Okay. So I got ClickHouse up and running on all 4 nodes. Now watch what I'm going to do. A couple things. Whoops. My config has to have the whole private IP thing. So this is the first node in the cluster. So what I'm going to do is go over here and I'm going to make that be the first host. Okay. And then the second host is going to be this one. And they're all, this is going to be the same on all 4 machines. Okay. The only thing I'm going to change is the names of the shards and replicas. And notice I have a macros section up here. And I called this shard 1 and replica 1. Well, I'm going to have to change that on every single machine. Now, the other thing I have to do is put the 3 zookeeper ones here. So let me make sure I get the right 3 of those. And I only have to do this once. So copy the 3 zookeeper hosts here. Because every single ClickHouse server, all 4 ClickHouse servers have to be able to find all 3 zookeeper nodes. Very important. Okay. So I think that's it. And again, the only thing I'm going to change on all 4 nodes, the only thing I'm going to change is the names of the shards and the names of the replicas. So I'm going to hit copy and I'm going to say a little prayer that this works. I'm going to go into ClickHouse. Notice I have 2 options here. ClickHouse client, ClickHouse keeper, and ClickHouse server. I didn't install the client and the server on my other nodes. I'm going to go into ClickHouse server. By the way, you can run ClickHouse keeper with the same binary as the ClickHouse. You can run it together. But if I look inside here, you'll see I have that config.d folder. It's all ready to go. So if I go into config.d, I'm going to, I don't know, I'll just call it something else. Call it my cluster.xml. And I'm just going to paste the whole thing in there. Now, this is the first one that I'm doing. So this one is going to be shard 1 and replica 1. So I'm just going to save it. This one's ready to go. Okay. I'm going to go on to node 2 and log out and log back in. I'm going to go into ClickHouse server config.d and I'm going to call it my cluster.xml. And this is going to be shard 1 replica 2. And so these 2 hosts are going to have the same shards, different replicas, same shard. Okay. Let's do it on node 3. server config.d. I'm going to set up my cluster.xml. This one is going to be shard 2. And on node 4, server config.d and my cluster.xml. Let's call this one shard 2 replica 2. And so now all 4 machines, the config files up and running. I actually had, if you looked at the command where I installed it, I actually have ClickHouse running as a service. So just to be sure that it's working, I'm going to restart ClickHouse on all 4 nodes. Just to make sure that's all good. And I'm going to run the ClickHouse client. And I'm going to select star from system.clusters. And I can't read that, so I'm going to change the format to vertical. And I'm going to see that I have a cluster called my cluster, 2 shards, 2 replicas. Here's the IP address of that host. So you can see the different, I have 4 different hosts all configured. And then I have a default cluster. That's just the one that you get by default. I didn't define that one, but you can see that my cluster, it looks like it's worth working. Here's the real test. Oh, Stefano, how do you choose a number of keepers? Always an odd number of keepers, typically 3. So unless you have a massive setup. So you got to have an odd number. You have to have a quorum at all times. What's nice about having 3 Zookeeper instances is I can afford to lose 1 and I'll still get a quorum. I'll still get a majority. Watch very closely at what I'm doing right here. This is the payoff. This cluster is set up. These 4 nodes are talking to each other. I have a cluster called my cluster. If I create a table with 2 columns in it, I don't care what's in the table. It's a replicated merge tree. It's going to, on all 4 nodes, it's going to use the values for shard and replica. If this works, please. Oh, it worked. It worked on all 4 hosts. If I go to any host, I'm going to go to the second host and say show tables in default. I should see test. Is that the name of the table? Yeah, that was it. If I describe test, here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do show create table test. There it is. It worked. And it's on, trust me, it's on all 4 nodes. Now watch this. This part's interesting. I'm going to put some values in. So I'm on node number 1, and I'm going to insert some rows. Okay, that's lovely. And then I'll do another insert just for fun. So I put in 3 rows. Let's put in 3 more rows. If I select star from test, I get back 6 rows. If I go to node number 2 and I select star from test, I should get 6 rows. If I go to node number 3, what's going to happen? Somebody tell me what's about to happen here. In the time it takes me to type this, can somebody tell me what's going to happen if I hit enter right here? Because if I select star from test, I would say that it's highly likely that I get nothing back. I don't have any data in this shard. All my data is in the first shard. I don't have any data in the second shard. If I want some data in the second shard, I'll have to put some rows in here. I'll have to insert, some other rows. I can do 7, 8, and 9. I'll do that. I'll leave the strings the same. And now I can select star from test, but that's only going to be those 3 rows. How do I see all the data in both shards? Well, you're going to have to create a distributed table and do it on any of the 4 nodes. I'm on node number 3. I'm going to call it test_distributed. It's not a merge tree table. It doesn't store data. This table is going to have the same schema as the test table. and this is the cluster name, this is the database name, this is the table name, and it's going to keep track. It's going to know which shards. If I select star from test underscore distributed, I'm going to get all 9 rows, and it doesn't matter which one. I go back to node 1. I went back to node 1. I don't know if you saw that. And I select star from test underscore distributed. Oh, maybe that table isn't on there. Ah, it is there. I get all 9 rows. This is beautiful. I did it. Let me check the questions here. I didn't provide a sharding key. There's a default sharding key. It'll I should have. I could have. It'll now when I do an insert, I would insert into test underscore distributed, and then it'll pick which shard to put it on. That's a really good question. Let's try it. Let's do 10, 11, 12. And then instead of putting it into test, I'm going to put it into test underscore distributed. Oh, I didn't define a sharding key. Oh, you're right. I should have done that. Shoot. Now I screwed that up. Hey, I'm glad you pointed that out. I didn't put a sharding key, so now I can't insert into the distributed test. I did that way too fast. Thank you, Stefano. Who pointed that out? Somebody should get a I don't know, pair of socks or something. Stefano did. Okay. I'm going to finish up quick and then I can answer questions. I just want to make sure I get to the end of the slides. There's a lab. Please feel free to go through the lab. This recording will be available here. So when you ask me where's the recording, it's that link right there that I just shared in the chat. And that link is to this particular training. And when you log in later today or tomorrow, whenever we get a chance to put it up there, this recording will be here. There'll be another tile right here that says the recording. The additional resources are everything that I did. The whole 5-node, the 7-node cluster, all those things that I did are here at the bottom. Pretty much everything I've typed. And then, of course, all the slides and labs are here on this first tile. So check it out. You log in. By the way, to access the course, you have to log in with your ClickHouse Cloud account. So if you have an account on ClickHouse Cloud, you can use that or just create a new one or just log in with Google. For what it's worth, if you have any questions, clickhouse.com/Slack. If you're not in the community Slack, you should go join that right now. There's a channel in there called ClickHouse Academy that I watch all day long, every day, and I can help you if you get stuck on the labs. I'm happy to do that. If you watched this 2 hours and said, I don't want to set up shards and replicas, go to clickhouse.cloud and we do all of it for you. Everything we did will be done for you with the click of a mouse, but it's fun to do it on your own, I guess. Lots of information that we just didn't get a chance to get to in 2 hours. If you go to learn.clickhouse.com, excuse me, and look at our list of all courses, we go into great detail on the architecture, how to model data, how to optimize your queries, all kinds of information here. It's all free. All of our training is free. Kelvin asked, how do you get data from Postgres to ClickHouse? And continuous, you're going to use something called PeerDB right there. And you can start a free trial. It's beautiful. So check out PeerDB. It uses CDC. It absolutely keeps your Postgres tables in sync with your ClickHouse tables. It's amazing. All right. Thanks, everyone. That was lovely. I think that's the end of the slides. Yep, that's all I got.